Austin Cindric has fallen fast since his Daytona 500 win. Chase Elliott leads the points despite having only one top 5 on the season. And Tyler Reddick, despite all the speed he's shown, currently sits outside of the playoffs. Which of these trends and others will continue as the regular season goes along? How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. We're now 10 races into the Cup Series season, and I feel like that's a pretty good sample size, enough of a sample size that we can begin to look at early season statistics. We can start to look at where people have landed in the point standings pecking order, and I think we can begin to identify certain trends. Some teams have gotten off to better starts than others. Some drivers are making consistent mistakes that others aren't. We're about to hit a more consistent summer stretch. I mean, if you look at it, the first 10 races this season have had a lot of kind of wild card races mixed in, like 3 super speedways, Bristol Dirt, kind of sort of beginning with Dover this weekend. We're going to begin a stretch of racing at, I'd say, more familiar racetracks. But still, 10 races is 10 races, and already my preseason playoff bracket is looking pretty busted. I can thank Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe for that. Let's begin by looking at both the current regular season standings and also the current playoff grid as they run now. And actually, this big playoff grid here is somewhat misleading. This is not how they would line up if the playoffs began today, because like Chase Elliott is the regular season points leader, he'd get a bunch of playoff points for being in first place. This playoff grid more shows you who is locked into the playoffs versus who is a little more vulnerable, because technically, even though he's the regular season points leader, Chase Elliott is not as locked into the playoffs as Austin Cindric is, because Cindric does have a win, and wins go a long way towards qualifying. But here you have it. You can see the regular season points all the way over there to the side. Remember, at the end of the regular season, after race 26, the top finishers in the regular season standings get extra bonus points. But if we look at the playoff picture, William Byron and Ross Chastain are the only 2 drivers to win multiple races this year. You get 5 extra playoff points per win, so that's naturally going to vault them closer to the top. But this right here is a good look at who's safe, Byron, Chastain, and pretty much everyone who has 1 win, and who's not safe. Namely, some of the guys right below me right here, the Almirolas, the Harvicks, the Tyler Reddick, currently 1 point out, my goodness. Let's go ahead and start with Tyler Reddick. He's had so much speed this year, he's been so close several times to getting his first career win, but despite all that speed, despite these close calls, he sits outside the playoffs, currently, by 1 point. Now, I fully believe if they continue to show the kind of speed they've shown, they'll eventually point their way in, they'll probably eventually win a race and lock themselves in that way. But right now, thanks in large part to DNFs at all 3 super speedway races, including a blown engine the other day at Talladega, Tyler Reddick sits outside the top 16 on the playoff grid. That's shocking. And again, it's just another example of why he shouldn't be so complacent when he gets wrecked for a win, like what happened at Bristol Dirt. Like, that win meant a lot. First win, money, momentum, etc., but the points and the virtual automatic playoff berth that comes with it, it's hard to put a price on that stuff. And when he got wrecked, it was more than just a trophy he lost out on. Here's the thing, he's only 1 point out. He's going to make the playoffs, I believe. But I think Tyler Reddick, with the speed they've shown early this year, his expectation is to make a deep playoff run. Like, I honestly think if he catches fire at the right time, Tyler Reddick could go all the way to the championship 4. But he's going to need more playoff points. Right now, where he is in the regular season standings, he wouldn't get any bonus points there. He doesn't have any race wins. That's where you really make up big-time playoff points. He needs to improve his seeding before September rolls around if he wants to make a deep playoff run. And right now, that should be the goal. The way they've run out the gate this year, just making the playoffs isn't a good enough goal. They should be looking for, a round of 8, and maybe, if they catch lightning in a bottle, a championship 4 appearance. And they're going to need wins to do that. Let's look at these standings once again. One name you may notice has dropped tremendously, especially in that far left column over there. Austin Cindric, the guy who won the season opening Daytona 500 as a rookie, a tremendous race, a tremendous story. He backed that up by sitting on the pole the very next week at Auto Club. Had a pretty solid run there, but since that Daytona win, he only has 1 other top 10 this season, and it was an 8th place at Circuit of the Americas, which isn't too surprising. Cindric has long been a tremendous road course racer. As a result, he's dropped to 16th in the traditional regular season point standings. Isn't shocking. I'm not going to pile on Austin Cindric. I mean, he's a rookie. I didn't think he'd make the playoffs this year. So he's actually fallen to about where I thought he would be most of this season. I'm just surprised it's happened so fast. We knew he wasn't going to continue the pace, winning the Daytona 500, winning the pole at Auto Club. We knew as a rookie that pace was not going to continue, but I was hoping it'd be a more gradual fall. It's kind of been a cliff more than anything. Again, I'm not going to pile on. He's just a rookie, and winning the Daytona 500, regardless of what he does the rest of this year, I'd consider this a successful rookie campaign. I'm just a little surprised he's fallen this quickly. I thought after that win, we'd at least see him in the top 10, top 15 for a while. He's already down to 16th in the traditional regular season standings. One driver, if you look all the way to that far left column, that you don't see is Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin still sits 24th in the regular season standings. But you do see him here in the playoff grid because he got that win at Richmond a few weeks back. When he won that race at Richmond, I know it was somewhat on strategy. He was up in the top 5 most of that race. He's a great Richmond racer. Joe Gibbs Racing was fast in that race, but he did win ultimately by employing a different pitch strategy than William Byron and Martin Truex Jr. But I feel like after that win, we all thought, okay, the floodgates are open. At that point in the season, Hamlin had 0 top 10s, 0 top 5s. He got that win. We said, okay, this is it. Hamlin's back. Because they had speed earlier in the year. He just made mistakes, had things go against them that had cost them good finishes. But since that win at Richmond, I regret to report that he has not finished inside the top 10 since. I hate to say it, but that Richmond win may end up saving Denny Hamlin big time this year. Like, it's still early enough that I think he could point his way back into the top 16 if he really wanted to, but he sits 24th right now. Last season, he battled Kyle Larson down to the wire for the regular season championship. That's not happening this year. In fact, Hamlin can just about write off collecting any bonus points by finishing high up in the regular season standings. Hamlin the rest of this regular season needs to go for wins, and wins only. If that means employing a bold strategy here or there, I think he and Chris Gabehart will go for it because that's the only way they're going to collect additional playoff points before the playoffs begin. That and stage wins, of course, which is another way they can be aggressive at like road courses, for example. It's been a bad start to 2022 across the board for Hamlin. Like his team, 2311 Racing, isn't doing well either, and Hamlin in recent weeks has voiced frustrations with that. Luckily, it's still early enough, things can turn around in a big, big way, but first 10 races have not been kind to the Deliverminator. Yeah, I haven't heard that one in a while. That's a nickname I wish had stuck. Again, looking at that far left column, Chase Elliott is stuck in the year 2003. He thinks we're still racing in the Winston Cup era or something. He's the regular season points leader right now by a pretty decent margin, 21 points over Ryan Blaney. No one's really that close to touching him, but it feels like we haven't talked about Chase Elliott much this year. He doesn't have any wins, and in fact, Chase Elliott only has 1 top 5 this season. 1. For comparison, Kyle Larson this year has 5 top 5s, but he also has 3 DNFs, which is why he's further down the standings. That's the key to Chase Elliott's season so far. They haven't made really any catastrophic mistakes. He's been very smooth and steady, very consistent. He's even led laps. He led a ton of laps at Martinsville a few weeks ago. They just have not finished races up front very often. Look, if he holds on to win the regular season championship, that's a lot of bonus points, but he'd like to win some as well to improve his seeding further. You're not going to be the number 1 seed just by winning the regular season championship. You're going to have to win races, and you're going to have to win some stages as well to stay ahead of like Byron or Chastain or anyone else who wins this year. I know we don't like to talk about it, but Chase Elliott hasn't won an oval race since Phoenix 2020. I guess he's doing things the old-fashioned way. He has an average finish this year of 10.5, best in the Cup Series, but 0 wins? You're gonna have to do better than that once the playoffs roll around. You're gonna need those bonus points and those automatic berths into the next round. Look at this playoff grid. Eric Jones in the 43 car for Petty GMS currently sits 18th. He's right there within striking distance of the top 16, which is great, I'd say, for the 43 car given their recent history. But honestly, after these first 10 races, I'm a little disappointed that all Eric Jones has to show for it is 18th. Because that team has been fast, and they've just been unable to finish several key races. Go back to the Daytona 500, he was running up front in the lead draft, mixing it up with the leaders in that one, got caught up in a wreck very late. A couple weeks later at Las Vegas, was running inside the top 10 in the closing laps when he broke loose and wrecked. A mistake that a small team like this trying to scrap their way into the playoffs really could not afford. And then Talladega this past weekend. Led a bunch of laps, great for him, but made the wrong move in the home stretch. Put a block on somebody that he didn't need to try and block, should have stayed at home and might have gotten pushed to the win. As it was, he finished 6th. Still good points. Points are points, but a win would have gone a long, long way for that team. So there's a couple examples this year of Eric Jones just not finishing races in the position he should. That's going to need to change. For a team that historically does not run up front that much, they need to maximize points every chance they get. So if Jones and the 43 can start finishing more of these races, the races especially where they have top 10 speed, they can still point their way into the playoffs. A win would be preferable for sure, but they can point their way in this year. I fully believe it. A couple more observations. Christopher Bell is pretty low on this list. Right now he's the last guy in if the playoffs began today by only 1 point. But Bell has quietly been on a small upswing. Earlier this year, in fact, after the Atlanta race, he was back like 29th, 30th in points, near his friend Denny Hamlin. But a 3rd at Coda, a 6th at Richmond, a 7th at Bristol Dirt, and quietly Bell's been able to turn things around. He's 16th on the playoff grid. He's actually, as you can see, 14th in the regular standings. His crew chief is Adam Stevens, same guy who won 2 championships with Kyle Busch not all that long ago. So I think the 20 team can be a contender this year, and they're finally starting to show it the last few weeks. And really, they've been showing it on Saturdays. They've been showing it in qualifying. Christopher Bell already has 2 poles on the season. And if we look at these last 5 races, he started 1st, 2nd, 7th, 9th, and 7th. Lots of starts inside the top 10. That helps you collect stage points in stage 1. I feel like we don't talk about qualifying enough these days, but because of stage points, I think qualifying is more important than ever, and Christopher Bell and team have been on it this year. So he's slowly moving his way up the standings. Obviously, if he wants to make a deep playoff run later this year, he's going to need to win a race or 2 this regular season to collect those bonus points. But the way they're trending, I would not rule that out at this point. The last team I want to note when we look at this playoff grid, when we look at the regular season standings, Stewart Haas Racing overall has turned things around significantly since last year. At this time last year, I think Harvick was the only guy inside the top 20 in points. Now, obviously, Chase Briscoe has a win, Kevin Harvick still sits a solid 11th in points, and Eric Almirola currently leads the team, sitting 10th in points. Obviously without a win, but considering Eric Almirola announced before the season began that this would be his final season, he is in a lame duck year. He's already said he's retiring. This is it. This is his swan song. Considering how bad he was last year, aside from that one New Hampshire race, the fact that he currently sits top 10 in the regular season standings is a remarkable turnaround. He's back to his old consistent ways. 0 DNFs this year. His worst finish on the year is 23rd at Bristol Dirt. Smooth and steady. That's how Eric Almirola's gotten the job done for most of his SHR career. Now, it's not all fun and games, not all great rainbows and sunshines at SHR. Like, Almirola's taken a step forward. Briscoe's been impressive this year, getting a win. But Kevin Harvick, who currently sits 11th in the regular season standings, statistically has taken a step backwards from last year. Last year, he still ended up with 10 top 5s, 24 top 10s, and this year he's only got 1 top 5 through the first 10 races. He's on pace to fall way short of last year's mark. Still though, in a decent spot to make the playoffs. And then there's Cole Custer, who is currently 26th in the regular season standings with no wins, no top 5s, no top 10s, 3 DNFs. Man, I don't know what to make of Cole Custer. I said at the beginning of this season, before the season actually began, that if Cole Custer struggled again this year, I think we could start talking about him being a bust. Like, honestly, I know he has connections within the SHR system. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon, but from the fans' perspective, I think any and all momentum that Cole Custer may have had a couple years ago is all but gone at this point. Like, unfortunately, nobody's talking about him. He's an afterthought. And it's a shame because his last couple years in Xfinity, he was tearing it up. He was a championship contender, winning races, contending with the best in the business. Unfortunately, that performance has not transferred over to the Cup Series, and he is not improving. In fact, he seems to be getting worse. Like, at least he won a race his rookie year in 2020. It's not all great over at SHR, but they are collectively as a team running a little better than last year, so they can hang their hat on that one. Anyway, there you have it. One final look at the playoff standings as they run right now, or at least how they would qualify for the playoffs. Again, guys like Elliott, Blaney with their regular season bonus points would jump up the playoff grid a little bit, but here's just an idea of who's safe when it comes to making the playoffs and who's maybe in a little bit of danger. Obviously, you got the regular season standings over there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Are there any notable trends that I didn't point out that you guys feel like are worth noticing? Leave a comment down in the comment section below. 10 races in. We'll do this again maybe in another 10 races after like race 20, right before the home stretch before the playoffs begin. That'll be fun. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We talk NASCAR day in, day out here on Out of the Groove. I truly appreciate the support, and I also appreciate my Patreon supporters. Every single episode, every single month, you guys go above and beyond to support the show, and it really means a lot to me. Thank you. Dover this weekend, the Monster Mile. We'll be talking about that here very, very soon. Thanks for watching, y'all. I will see you in the next episode.